Today we're digging into the archives and going back to a simpler time. Back when I was just a newly minted private pilot and I started flying with my first flying club and wanted to get checked out in some high-performance airplanes. So I needed to do some more training and get a high-performance endorsement. So enjoy this blast from the past, episode 78 of the Student Pilot Cast, Low to High and High Performance, Transitioning.
Chandler Tower, Cherokee 4121 Tango, so Chandler Air Service. We have Zulu, and we'd like a south departure, please.
What does it take to be an angel? Where does the sun go when it sleeps?
As I said in the cold open, I thought I'd break into the archives a bit and go back to younger Bill to change things up a little. As you may know, I am currently a member of a flying club out of Mesa Falcon Field Airport. We currently have 5 airplanes, and one of them is a Cessna 182. You may also know that I've been working on my CFI, and I was holding off on doing any checkouts in the club's 182 until I finished some of the training, since I wasn't planning any trips or flights in the 182 anyway. And I was sticking with the trainer-oriented airplanes in the club, which are a couple of 172s, a Warrior, and until recently, a light sport aircraft. We recently got rid of that airplane out of the club, unfortunately, as it was pretty fun and inexpensive, but I digress. Since I've been struggling to get a DPE scheduled for my check ride, I thought I might as well continue getting some flight time while I'm waiting and accomplishing some of my other goals as well. And one of those was getting back into the 182, one of my absolute favorite airplanes of all time. So let me tell you a little bit about my experience with 182s. I did all my primary training in Piper Warriors. Then shortly after achieving my private pilot certificate, I joined this club that we're going to be talking about today. And at the time, it was based out of a private fly-in community airport in Chandler called Stellar Air Park. It was such an awesome situation for me at the time. It would give me access to some great airplanes and allow me to, well, I guess spread my wings a little and start getting some real GA experience. The club then had 2 182s. One of them was from the 60s, and the other one was from the 70s. And they also had a 172 SP, which, especially at the time, seemed practically brand new, as it was a 2001 model, if I remember correctly. And remember, this was 2008 when I joined the club, so it basically was brand new in airplane terms. I would end up mostly flying the 182s in the club, as I fell hard for that type. It was great at carrying stuff and wasn't quite as slow as a 172. And my wife and I like to travel with friends and some bags, so the 182 was well suited. I had some great adventures in those airplanes. We traveled with friends on cool trips to places like San Diego and my hometown area of the Central Coast of California to have some adventures there. I flew with buddies to ASU football games. I flew my kids several times to go airplane camping in those 182s. I took a bunch of people on their first flights over that time. I took my parents to Sedona and a couple of other people to Sedona for that matter. I took my boys to an air show in Tucson to see the Thunderbirds when they were little. There were lots of $100 hamburgers over that time as well. We did family trips up to Utah to visit family. Oh yeah, and we can't forget that I flew a 182 from the Phoenix area to Oshkosh and back in, I think, 2011. I had a great time learning how to be a real go-places pilot in those 182s. In fact, before I started training again recently, I had more time in the 182 than any other airplane. Since my training airplanes are mostly Warriors again, that type has retaken the top spot in my logbook, but needless to say, I love flying the 182. So with me getting ready to fly a 182 again in the club to get checked out in it, it got me thinking about the type a lot again. And I realized that I never published my transition training, my club checkout, and the required high-performance endorsement training that I needed back in 2008 to start flying these planes in the club. So I decided to take a quick detour and reach into the archives for those flights and do some episodes on it. I think it'll be kind of good for you as the listeners and the audience to see what it's like to start flying a different type of airplane or different airplanes and for different reasons after just getting your license. You start flying not just for training, but for utility and for fun and to go places. And that transition to the club and to these 182s started my journey on that. I guess it's kind of a pretty typical progression, but I hope you enjoy it anyway. But before we get into that flight so long ago, we have another Beyond the Check ride for you this week. I'm going to insert it here before the flight. So Kent and I got back together to talk about another topic. So here you go. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another Beyond the Check ride. How you doing, Kent?
Excellent.
You're not going to say your thing about talking about flying?
Well, I feel like I said it already. I kind of did.
True story. All right. Well, we're back again to record another Beyond the Check ride. So, Kent, what's our topic?
Descent planning. This isn't nearly as juicy as some of the other ones we've done, but
I don't even know that we can get a controversy going on this one. I'm sure we can figure something out.
I think we can. Just because of the last thing on the list there.
All right. This is how I do it.
We'll try.
Excellent. So where do we start with this one?
Well, we start in cruise, I think.
That's a good place to descend from.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to descend from the ground. So now let me ask, as a somewhat less experienced pilot, how do you plan your descents?
I told you, I just kind of wing it. Just kidding.
Well, I mean, honestly, I remember when I was working on my private, doing my first few dual cross countries, it was kind of like, oh, well, I can see the airport right up there, and I should probably start coming down now because it looks like I'm, significantly higher than a glide slope should be, but it was in a 172, so you just pull the throttle back and you practically fall out of the sky and it's all good. Don't have to worry about it, right?
Yeah, you remember doing the paper flight plans, when you were doing your private?
Time, fuel, and distance to descend.
Yeah. You had to use the POH and you had to have a top of descent there and you had to do all that figuring beforehand. We actually have a bit of a cheat code these days with ForeFlight. I don't know if everybody who uses ForeFlight kind of casually knows this, but if you send your flight plan to the flight tab, it'll create something that's very similar to those those old paper flight plans that we did with all of the detailed numbers. Those are in there. So that's another way that I actually sometimes do look at that for descent planning.
So what you're talking about is the nav log.
The
correct?
nav log, yep. The nav log.
Yeah, it'll put a top of climb, top of descent into the nav log.
Yep.
Another ForeFlight trick you can use, even if you're not using flights, if you just have maps, flip from the edit view over to the profile view.
Yep.
And you can see where your top of climb and descent are, and then you can actually go and add a waypoint there if you'd like.
Yeah. Now that does require that you have a certain level. I don't believe that profile view works in all levels, but yeah, that's really handy. But to get back to your original question, I've always used that old rule of thumb. If I didn't really plan it beforehand and I don't have a nav log and, all those things, where you plan for about 3 nautical miles per 1,000 feet that you got to descend. And of course, you take whatever your cruise altitude is and you subtract whatever the pattern altitude is from it. And that gives you your amount to descend. And then you kind of do that. I'm going to need 3 to 4 nautical miles for every 1,000 feet that I want to descend, in a small piston. It's probably not that good, but it's close. And I guess that's what rules of thumb are. And so that'll get you close enough for making sure that you don't have to circle about 6 times to get down to pattern altitude once you get to the airport. So,
yeah. Well, that 3 miles per 1,000, that's a rule of thumb that even large transport jet pilots will use.
Oh, really? Okay.
But, I have heard some interesting equations and more specific rules of thumb, but one of them is that for a 3-degree descent, which I think is roughly what the 3 miles per 1,000 is, for that 3-degree descent, your rate of descent in feet per minute is about your ground speed times 5. So if you're at 90 knots, multiply that by 5, it's 450 feet per minute. Great. So you're descending in a Cub or something.
Yeah. But if you're descending in something fast, that is going to be a sporty descent.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you fly something in the higher altitudes, all that stuff breaks down, because in a TBM at, say, 27,000 feet, you might be in cruise, truing out at 330 or something like that. You might even pick up 40 or 50 knots in the descent, because you're coming down fairly quick, and you're in that descent for a long time. So the plane's got a good chance to speed up while you're going downhill. But then as you start getting into thicker and thicker air, your true airspeed keeps going down and down and down the whole time. So the rules of thumb are always kind of straight lines, but reality is a little bit more curved in something like that. Now, I don't use 3 miles per 1,000 in my plane because I like to be passenger friendly, and
and those moonies are pretty
descending.
Slippery. Yeah,
they are very slippery. That's what everybody likes about them.
That's right.
In cruise, I true out at about 170 to 175 knots on 12 gallons an hour, and yeah, that's what I love about the plane. However, I'm doing about, figure 180 in the descent. If there's no wind, use that same rule of thumb. And now I'm doing 900 feet per minute. I don't really necessarily like doing that with passengers in an unpressurized airplane. 500 feet per minute is good and passenger friendly. So that's generally what I would recommend people stick to when they have an unpressurized airplane. But when you get into some that are faster, well, now you need a little bit more room to descend.
Yeah.
So what I think of is, 180 knots is 3 miles per minute. And if I'm wanting to descend at 500 feet per minute, it's 2 miles, or 2 minutes rather, per 1,000 feet. So that means with no wind, I'm looking at 6 miles per 1,000 feet. Now, I'm a nerd and I'm really good at doing math in my head, so I always correct for the wind. I pretty much figured, just based on experience, I know that I'm going to gain about 10 knots in the descent at 500 feet per minute. And so I just kind of look at my ground speed and add 10 knots to it. And then I kind of start looking at that miles per minute number. So every 60 knots is another mile per minute. So I usually go maybe to the nearest quarter or something like that. So if I've got a good headwind going and I'm getting 165, that's 2 3/4 miles per minute, or 5.5 per 1,000 feet. And then, like you said, the key is to kind of figure out where you are and where you're going. Figure out how many thousands of feet you're going to descend, and go from there. Any questions about using math at all?
What's math? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, there are people who are good pilots who are not good at math, and that's just fine. I know there's a lot of people out there who think that you have to be super good at math to be a pilot. You don't. There's a rule of thumb for everything. So
yeah. Not to mention, we fly with like 6 computers now at our fingertips.
Right.
So,
and that's kind of where I was going next, is there's avionics and EFBs and stuff like that we can also use for our descent planning. For example, in my airplane, I have a Garmin 750, and because I also have a GI 275 attitude indicator that supplies all the information that the 750 needs to make the calculation, I have the VNAV capability. All those Garmins have either the VNAV or the VCalc. So if you don't have anything but the GPS, you'll have VCalc, which just basically helps you do the math. And then VNav, you actually tell it, okay, I want to be at 1,000 feet off the ground, 5 miles prior to my destination, and it will calculate a path through the sky, and it will tell you 1 minute to top of descent, and then it'll calculate a vertical path that you can actually follow. I have a vertical CDI on my attitude indicator that I can follow down. And if you have their fancy autopilot, you can actually have the autopilot do it all automatically.
Just fly the descent for you.
Yep. And since I have plenty of experience with Garmin autopilots, let me throw this one thing in here. There's 3 things you got to do to make that work. First thing is you have to actually hit the VNav button. That is pretty obvious. Second thing is you need to have that point programmed into your flight plan with the altitude so that it knows where it's going. And third, you have to take your altitude bug and set it to the altitude you want to go to. And if you do all 3 of those things, then it will capture that vertical path that it has calculated and follow it down without you having to touch anything.
There's one more thing you got to do, though, and especially in your airplane, you got to pull that power back.
I actually leave my power as is for the most part early in the descent.
Early, yeah, maybe, but in your airplane, you might get going pretty fast.
So the reason I say that is that I was just kind of thinking about when you get into a faster airplane like that, you're not looking at the airport on the descent anymore. I think I remember starting a descent 62 miles out once in the movie. So, if you're on a longer trip and you get up into maybe the low teens or something like that, or up around 10,000 in altitude anyway, you've got a ways to come down, and then you get a tailwind happening and all that. It's pretty normal for me on a cross-country trip to be starting my descent 40, 50, 60 miles out.
Airport not in sight.
No, not at all. So yeah, I am not pulling my power back early on because especially at those altitudes in a normally aspirated airplane, I'm only pulling 18, 19, 20 inches of manifold pressure. And so my power is already pretty low.
True.
So generally what I do is this is where we're going to have the controversy, shock cooling and power reductions. There are plenty of arguments over whether shock cooling is actually a thing in this industry. Some people say, it's a bunch of hogwash. Some people say, well, if you don't give it 5 minutes per inch of manifold pressure, then you're going to blow up your engine. Well,
both are pretty extreme.
Neither one of those, right? Neither one of those things is 100% true. It's probably somewhere in the middle. But honestly, the fastest your engine cools down is after you shut it down anyway. So, there are people who work really hard to keep power settings up. They use things like speed brakes to basically keep their power setting up and not have as much air flowing over the engine. I don't go to that extreme, but I also figure, okay, if I act as if shock cooling is a thing, what's the downside? And so what I do is I start pulling power back usually about 20 miles out, and I might be at up to 24 inches of manifold pressure at some point. And so, at 20 miles out, I'll knock it down to 22. And at 15 miles out, I'll take it down to 20. And then 10 miles out, I'll go to 17. And 5 miles out, I go to 14. And I might add 5 miles to those on an IFR flight, just so that I'm slowed down and I'm ready to drop my gear at the final approach fix. Because you're right, it's a very slippery airplane that I'm flying. And so I only lose about 5 knots through those first 3 power reductions. And it's only that last one. I would say usually when I go from 17 to 14, I'm still doing about 155 indicated, and my gear speed is 140. So, yeah, I have to get slowed down to 140, and 14 inches is about as low as I can get the throttle before the gear warning starts squawking.
Right.
So, I have to let it sit there for a couple of minutes before it'll slow down enough to drop the gear. Then once I drop the gear, it'll slow down real nicely. But in an instrument approach type of scenario, I figure, okay, I'm going to be dropping the gear
early
when I'm 5 miles out anyway. So I definitely need to be low enough to drop the gear at the final approach fix. So,
right. Well, that's good.
So yeah, I'll add a little for that. But yeah, I don't just pull back the power at the top of the descent anymore. That's for back in the day when I was flying the 172 and looking at the airport before I started. So.
You can practice your emergency descents just right over the airport.
Yeah. Well, that's something the Mooney actually does quite well. My emergency descent procedure is to slow down to gear speed, throw the speed brakes out, slow down to gear speed as quick as possible, drop the gear, and then I will say that I've never pushed the nose down as far as you're supposed to, because it actually says you should then accelerate back up to your maximum gear extended speed, which is 164 indicated.
Oh my goodness.
And with the gear and the flaps and not the flaps, the gear and the speed brakes out, there is no blue left in the windscreen at that point. And I've never actually gotten it back up to 164 knots.
It sounds fun though. Sounds really fun.
It'll really fall out of the sky when you do that. But anyway, getting a little off topic there.
So that's your typical descent plan then? I'm just kidding. So let me ask you, Kent, in practical terms, these days, you were to do a cross country tomorrow, would you be allowing ForeFlight to set up your nav log and you'd kind of follow that? Or would you be doing that math in your head, figuring it out and doing it on your own? What's your typical MO these days?
My typical MO is just to do the math in my head based on my actual ground speed. Winds are never as they were forecast, of course. And
True.
ForeFlight is going to be using those forecast winds. And so that's pretty much why I do it that way. But that's not to say that the forecasts are completely made up out of whole cloth either. They come from somewhere, and there is some level of accuracy to them. So if you just go ahead and, maybe start with that and adjust as necessary, that's fine too. There's a lot of ways to skin this cat. So
yeah, especially with that VNAV support in the GPS, which is going to take into account wind and other things.
Yeah, and I will say that one thing that it does not take into account is the extra speed that you're going to get when you start
from the descent. Got it.
So for those of you who do have that equipment, obviously the Garmin stuff is really popular. If you're going to use that VNAV feature, it does let you set up the path as a feet per minute sort of thing. So you can tell it you want 500 feet per minute, but it's going to calculate the path based on a 500 foot per minute descent at your current speed. And so in reality, if you leave the power in on the descent, you're going to accelerate when you start going down. And so it's going to be more than 500 feet per minute at that point. And then same thing with what we were talking about before with true airspeeds changing as your altitude changes.
Yeah.
As you get into thicker air and start slowing down, it's going to affect your vertical speed as well. But, it's a great starting point, and it doesn't change by that much in most circumstances.
Yeah.
So however you do it.
And the difference between a 650 foot per minute descent and a 500 foot per minute descent is generally not going to be a big deal.
Right. Most people won't notice the difference there.
Yep.
Now, one thing that we haven't really talked about is we've been focusing our passenger comfort discussion here mostly on the ear issues that a lot of people will have if you start doing really fast descents. Most people may have learned how to clear their ears on an airline flight or something like that. And of course, with a pressurized airplane, they're going to keep the cabin rate of descent fairly reasonable. So that's why we do our descents that way, even though our cabin is the same as the outside. However, another thing to think about is, especially if it's a hot, bumpy day, as you're descending from cruise altitude, you may be in nice, cool, smooth air when you're in cruise. And then you get down to 4,000 or 5,000 feet, and all of a sudden it's hot and bumpy and humid and
pretty uncomfortable.
Now somebody who has motion sickness might not handle that too well. And so if that's the case, you might want to plan on pulling back the power and maybe even leveling out to slow down a little bit and kind of maybe having like a 2-stage descent in a way.
Yeah, good idea. Hadn't really thought of that before.
Okay, so with a 2-stage descent, what I mean is, the first stage would be in the smooth air where you're going to be at a real low descent gradient because you're still going fast. And then once you get to those altitudes where it's hot and bumpy and you want to slow down so that maybe your motion sick passengers aren't feeling it as much, once you slow down, you're going to end up with a higher descent
going pretty
gradient.
steep. Yep.
Right.
Yep. Get through that bumpy hot air as quick as possible and get on the ground. Yep.
Yep. Yeah. And at that point, vertical speed is your friend.
Right. Right. Awesome. Well, that's good stuff for people to be thinking about when they're planning their descent on their next cross country. Anything we've forgotten? Anything you want to cover before we end?
Well, I think the only thing we really didn't necessarily talk about in great detail was where are you going to? So VFR, it's usually either going to be pattern altitude, or I've found that if I plan all the way down to field elevation, that works pretty well anyway, because like I said, my plane is going down about 6 miles per 1,000 feet. So I'm at pattern altitude 6 miles from the airport as well. So that really depends on the plane you fly, of course. But, if you're IFR, there's maybe more that is going to have to go into it depending on the approach procedure that you're going to fly and how you're going to get to the approach procedure and what all your various minimum altitudes are. So just be aware of that, especially if there's any sort of terrain around, or you look at the approach plate and there's a bunch of different step downs, or maybe your minimum en route altitude in the area is quite a bit higher than the approaches. You might have some more thinking that goes into it at that point.
Yep. In some cases, you might even want to do a descent and a hold if you're, you don't want to go down as fast. So,
I mean, there was one time that I was flying the Mooney into Jackson Hole, and there is a very long descent at the end of that. Start the approach from the Denor VOR, and minimum altitude there is 14,000 feet. And I was looking at it going, oh, this is going to be a little bit of a challenge to get down. And so I think I extended my gear at like 7,000 AGL or something like that, just to help get down at that point.
Yeah, slow it down so you can get a better angle. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So things are always more fun out west, right?
Always makes it more challenging. Excellent. Well, Kent, great topic. Thanks again. Appreciate you coming on and doing these Beyond the Check rides, and I hope everybody's enjoying them and getting something out of them. So, as usual, reach out to us if you have any comments or disagreements with how we do this, any great ideas that you want us to pass along. Reach out to us and let us know. You can reach me at bill@studentpilotcast.com and a bunch of other ways you can find us on social media, I'm sure. So thanks again. And until next time, Kent, we'll see you.
All right. We'll see you. Fly safe.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that Beyond the Check ride. Remember to let us know your own thoughts on these topics, and you can reach out to us at bill@studentpilotcast.com, or of course use the contact us page on the website, which is studentpilotcast.com. But for now, let's move on to the flight. Before we get going, though, I should say that this flight was in 903 Quebec, which was our older and less well-equipped 182. It was a nice plane, but it turns out it was having a few issues at the time. The audio panel was making some noise. I think technically something attached to the engine was making some noise. It was being picked up by the audio panel, but there were some other issues as well. One of the radios wasn't working quite right, and there was something going on where Freddie, my CFI for these transitions, he would lose his ability to get picked up on the intercom. We had electrical noise from the engine, like I mentioned, and we were troubleshooting some of that, and the audio panel sounded kind of bad, etc. And all of that is on my recorded audio, of course. Freddie knew about the podcast and about me recording my flights, so he wanted it to sound good, and plus it was kind of annoying while we were in the airplane. So apologies in advance. There's some noise in the cockpit audio that we usually don't have anymore, but it's not totally ruined, so I think it'll work. When I fly the newer 182 later on, this kind of thing didn't happen as much, I don't think, but for this one, we'll just have to deal with it, I guess. I've tried to clean it up a bit in editing, but you'll still hear it. So while we were based out of Stellar, like I mentioned earlier, just a few miles from Chandler Airport, if I remember correctly, at the time, we had the planes temporarily at Chandler because I think the runway at Stellar was being resurfaced or something like that. So this flight and the others for the transition actually originate and end out of Chandler Airport, which is where I did all my primary training. It would be another month or so later when we started flying out of Stellar again. In any case, as usual from back then, we'll start by picking up the ATIS at Chandler, and we'll get going.
Temperature 36, dew point 11, altimeter 2986. Visual approach in use, landing and departing runways 22 left and right. Noticed airmen, multiple obstructions in the vicinity of Chandler Airport up to 310 feet AGL. Hazardous weather information for Arizona available from Flight Watch and Flight Service. Departing aircraft, advise ground control direction of flight. Advise on initial contact you have information Sierra. Chandler Airport information Sierra, 2047 Zulu weather, wind 240 at 6, visibility 30.
Well, we're going to
Few clouds 15,000,
No,
temperature 36, dew point 11, altimeter 2986. Visual approach in use, landing and departing runways 22 left and right. Noticed airmen, multiple obstructions in the vicinity of Chandler Airport up to 310 feet AGL. Hazardous weather information for Arizona available from Flight Watch and Flight Service. Departing aircraft, advise ground control direction of flight. Advise on initial contact you have information.
Yeah, get more. They call this the north ramp, right? Yeah, I guess. All right. Northeast. Chandler ground, Cessna 2493 Quebec is on the north ramp. We have Sierra, and we'd like a south departure, please.
Cessna 2493 Quebec, Chandler ground, good afternoon. Taxi 2, runway 22 right, via Alpha November.
Taxi to 22 right, and we'll actually be coming in right next to the threshold, if that's okay.
Correction, Cessna 93 Quebec, roger, taxi 2, runway 22 right, via November.
Taxi to 22 right, 93 Quebec.
Cessna 93 Quebec, use caution for the Seneca that's already there in the run-up area.
Wilco 93 Quebec.
So we taxied out and started the run-up. One of the new things to me was cycling the prop. Since this was the first time I had flown a high-performance airplane or anything with a constant speed prop, so this would be my first time doing that, and so I'm learning.
Run up. Nose into the wind, prop wash, nose wheel straight, fuel selector both. Bow flaps. Open. Throttle 1700 RPM. Magnetos. Cycle prop. Cycle prop? That mean all the way? Yep. Okay. So pull it all the way out. Doesn't matter how fast, just do it.
Pull it out.
Okay.
Yep. And then when it drops, there you go. Now push it in.
Okay. This takes a bit for it to turn. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Cycle prop, carb heat. Go ahead and put that on.
Yep. Pull it out.
Drop. Yep. Suction 4.6 if I can find it.
It's right here.
Nope. Okay. Throttle full closed.
There you go.
All right. Engine instruments check.
Yep.
Green. Navigation instruments. This is 22. Windows, secure cabin. Big cabin.
Yeah,
I can barely reach that back seat. Okay.
All right. Now we were ready for takeoff, so here you go.
6, 1. Two. Chandler Tower, Cessna 2493 Quebec is ready at 22 right.
Cessna 2493 Quebec, Channel Tower at the field boundary, left turn approved, runway 22 right, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff on 22 right and left turn approved, Cessna 93 Quebec. I always want to say Cherokee. All right, halt, right?
Yep.
Okay, are on 2-1 actually. What was A?
Heading. Altitude. Altitude.
Altitude.
Lights time. Yep. Heading. Altitude. Altitude. Lights time. Heels on the floor. There you go. Feel the plane.
Connect 49er Sierra,
Bring it to
frequency
climb
change for
attitude.
today. Please take please good day for
There you go. Go ahead and trim. Now, bring your power back to the top of the green arc right there. And bring your prop back, to your top of the green arc. Just turn it.
Oh.
Turn it a little bit more. There you go.
Out there?
Yeah, you never want this higher than this.
Okay.
The only thing you got to remember, every 1,000 feet you go up, you're going to lose an inch of manifold pressure, so you got to bring the throttle in. The opposite's true when you come down.
You gotta put more throttle.
Right.
Okay. All right, so we're 600 feet AGL, so I'm gonna start turning if that's all right.
Ah, you're fine, you can go straight out.
Oh, okay. Oh, we're gonna head back out to the same spot?
Yeah.
Helicopter 562, cross both runways, midfield at the helipad, clear to land.
Cross runways and make left traffic clear to land.
And the speeds in this are in miles per hour, correct?
Yeah, so it's a little different. The manual doesn't give you a whole lot.
The what?
The manual does not give you a whole lot. It's an ancient manual.
Yeah.
478. And you do have rudder trim, so you can use that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it looks like it wants to climb at about 100 miles per hour. Sound about right?
Yeah, somewhere in here. That looks good. Climb attitude.
So as this starts to drop down,
Bring your power
just
in.
put in a little power, huh?
Yep. Just keep it top of the green arc. Just make sure your manifold pressure does not exceed your RPM.
Helicopter 34 Delta proceed, request to use caution, non-moving area.
Chandler Tower, Diamond Star 4117 Hotel is 5 miles south of the field, a little over fly at 3,500 feet en route to Falcon, Channel Tower.
Diamond 5117 Hotel Channel Tower, that's above the channel cross Delta surface area, altimeter 2984.
2984, Diamond Star 17 Hotel.
So another thing that would be new to me again with the constant speed prop would be transitions to and from cruise or other phases of flight. Freddie had done some ground training with me before the flight, but doing it is always a little different, so I'd be starting to learn how to manage power when there's two controls for it instead of just one. For the uninitiated, I'll go into very, very briefly what I'm talking about there. When you're flying an airplane with a constant speed prop, you have two controls that help you manage the power or your power settings. From a trainer airplane that's got a fixed pitch prop, you've got the throttle lever, which controls the RPM. That's how you know where your power setting is, as you look at the revolutions per minute of the engine, which in most airplanes that don't have gearboxes or anything like that, is also the revolutions per minute of the prop itself. That's how you know what your power setting is. When you go to most high-performance airplanes or any airplane with a constant speed prop, you now have two levers that manage your power settings. Your prop lever or prop control manages the RPMs. And you have a new gauge called a manifold pressure gauge that helps you see where your throttle setting or your main power setting is at. And so it's a dance between increasing or decreasing manifold pressure and increasing or decreasing RPMs. And where those are set determines what the power output is at that time for your power system or for your engine. So we don't need to go into too much detail, but you will hear me here kind of learning how to manage those things.
What do I set this? Okay, now you're cruising. You want about 23, 23.
23 inches?
23 inches, 2,300 RPM. Right, bring your power back to 23, or your RPM back to 23. There you go, right about there.
Okay.
Too much. And level the nose. And now you'll go fuel's on, cow flaps closed.
Okay, fuel what?
Fuel on,
yeah.
cow flaps closed. Mixture flap, or flaps, mixture prop. Now you can add the carburetor heat too, all the way across.
Okay.
And there you have it. Yeah, just head down that way.
First thing we'd do as far as air work or practice would be steep turns. Let's see how it went.
Alrighty. Alright, do a couple clearing turns. Okay. Alrighty. And southwest forward. 2493 Quebec over the south edge of Maricopa at 55. And go ahead and do a couple steep turns.
Alright, start to the left.
Southeast altimeter down 4 kilo at 3,500 over Greenpeace, heading towards north.
Southwest 2493 Quebec over the south edge of Maricopa, 55 maneuver. Not bad. Go ahead. Try
Right into the right.
Oh yeah.
Southeast Bracket 3 Archer, Ray 314 Echoes over the green field, east of the I-10, 3000, and up the Casa Grande, Southeast Bracket 3. Heading towards north.
There you go, pretty good. Do a 180. And we'll do another one.
Do another one? Okay.
Yeah, once you do a 180 and we'll decide.
There, down 410.
Just go halfway then.
Yeah, do a 180 and then we'll do a steep turn to the left.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
There you go, right back to the right.
We'd spend some time trying to troubleshoot the audio and radio issues that I talked about earlier and that we were having, and then we would move on to some slow flight.
Break again. I got to go in last time by going to COM 1 and back.
Wind calm, visibility.
Wow, it's interesting, huh?
Southwest Factor, Seneca 863 November.
That's weird.
Right action, 4,500, we're going to be heading towards the west side.
All right, let's go to minimum controllable airspeed. So now you gotta add your prop in. So just remember, you're gonna go to high power. So you want the cowl flaps open and the prop forward.
Okay, we do that now.
Well, go fuels on, cowl flaps open.
Okay.
Flap set, mixture set, prop, bring the prop forward.
Okay.
Bring your throttle back. Carbide on.
All the way back?
No, just back. You're doing minimum controllable airspeed, so you don't want to drop out of the sky. You want to hold your altitude.
Okay.
Bring it back to 19 to 21.
Oh.
Somewhere between 15 and 22.
Heading towards the bottom.
Carbide on.
I'm 1 mile
I'll get you some procedures. Mags on both. Primers locked. Airspeed into white arc. Now add your flaps. This one's not like the 172, so you got to be in the white arc for your all your flaps.
Okay.
The 172, you got the first 10, you can get up to 110 knots.
I'm not really... I'm holding altitude, but I'm not getting slower. There we go. It's not that loud of an airplane anyway, so...
Use caution for bird activity in the vicinity of Chandler Airport. Advise on initial contact that you have. Tango 21470.
Alright. There I am again.
Hey, there you are. Nice to have you back.
Thanks. Alright, roll out, watch your altitude.
Nope.
And now you want to recover, so you go full power, flaps up 10 degrees at a time.
Whoa!
What?
I just barely hit it and went...
Yeah, you gotta watch it. So count your 3. 1, 2, 3. Carbide off. And we'll resume normal cruise. Power back. Then bring your prop back.
About there. Oh, jeez. We just gotta lift it up.
All right, do a right 180.
Okay. Man, I'm sweating like a dog.
You all right? You're gonna make it?
Yeah, I'm okay. It's just hot.
We can make it a little shorter and your feet up. Plus with this radio,
I know. Kind of annoying.
you know, just doing touch and goes. You probably want me to talk to you, huh? All right, why don't you try a...
I can hear you. Well, no, but I can hear you. Okay.
47 Zulu observation.
You want to plug in the back?
The vicinity of Chandler Airport up to 300. Departure on contact.
Right, when I push, that should be going down, like that.
Yep. Nope, looking.
All right, see how it's going back and forth between... When it pushes, it's blocking my mic. So it's getting stuck in the in position and blocking my mic. Or, well, it's getting stuck halfway in between.
Right. Where it's no longer transmitting, but it's not...
Right.
It's blocking your mic.
Right.
I can do the announcements if you want, so you... Oh, open. Forward.
All right, more issues hearing Freddie, but we'd get him back, and then we'd move on to a power on stall.
Southwest practice area 428 Delta Whiskey is over the town of Maricopa. 55. All right,
Hey, you're back.
Yeah, for now. And okay, go ahead and now slow it down to takeoff speed.
Was that 90 miles an hour?
Yeah, 80 to 90.
Okay. All right. And power it on.
Power in all the way.
All right. There it
There
is.
you go, descent attitude.
Descent attitude, okay.
3, 4, 5, climb attitude.
All right.
Alrighty, let's do a 180 and we'll do a power off stall and hopefully this thing won't lock up. Southwest 2493 Quebec is just south of the town of Maricopa 55.
You still with me?
Yeah, I'm here for now.
Southwest Connecticut 63 November, about overhead Hilo crossing, descending on 3,300, 2,000, heading towards Goodyear last call, Southwest.
Now it was time to try a power off stall. I would start to notice how heavy this bird was on the nose when slowing down, and that would become a theme over and over again as I learned to land these slightly bigger and heavier airplanes, especially up front with the bigger engine.
There you go, now let's try a power off stall. Okay, so fuel's on, we'll leave the cowl flaps open for this one.
Okay.
Flaps, mixture set. Okay, power back, carb heat on. Mags on both, primers locked. And then into white arc, bring your flaps in. Don't let the nose drop yet.
Okay. Do it all at once.
Yep.
Put on the brakes. Oh, that's heavy.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's a big girl. There you go.
Oh, there it is.
Descent attitude, full power. First 10 degrees flaps up. 3, 4, 5. Now bring it up to climb attitude. Trim it. Push your carburetor heat off at the same time.
Same time as the power in?
Yep. Okay. And 10 degrees flaps up, trim. 10 degrees flaps up, trim. Southwest 2493 Quebec is just over the town of Maricopa 55. Between 55 and 6,000.
You want me to descend a little? You want me to descend a little?
Yeah, we're all right. Let's go back over to our runway.
Okay, I can't see it.
It is right over there.
There it is. Okay. Gonna pull the prop back a little?
Yep. There you go. Go to your normal cruise. So fuel's on, cowl flaps are open. Actually, you'd close them. We're doing an emergency, so it will be okay to close them.
Okay.
There. Prop set. Throttle's okay. Carb heat off. Mags on both front slots. There. Now let's get over our spot.
We would now practice simulated engine out.
What is this?
What? It's a map light.
What's best glide?
80.
80?
Yep. And where is our...
We're right over it.
Are you? All right.
Well, no, I'm sorry. It's right there, but pretty close. Okay. Lost it. Lost the power. Best glide 80 miles an hour.
Azoot traffic, Cessna 562 Alpha Foxtrot, 7 miles to the west of Azoot intersection. We're going to be holding at 4,500 over Azoot for the GPS runway 23 into Casa Grande.
The trim cannot hold it.
Oh, yeah, it'll get close, but...
Okay, so I'm going to go through it both. Do I do anything with the cowl flaps in an emergency?
No, just leave them there. You're
okay,
fine.
cowl flaps.
You could open them if the engine was overheating.
All right, mixture
so
full.
you put it in your flow, yeah.
Okay, mixture full rich or close to it. Carb heat.
On, mags on both, primers locked, everything's fine.
All right. And there's no fuel pump, right?
Right. Okay. Last radio frequency is 7,700.
7,700. Mayday, mayday, mayday. We 15 miles southwest of Chandler. Seatbelts on.
Yep.
What's all that static?
I have a feeling it's my...
Oh yeah, your boom.
Did it stop?
Not really. Yes.
Where's your runway?
It's right here. I was just looking and I was just looking at the dust over there to test the wind. Wow, it's loud.
Is it?
Yeah.
New set. Oops, hope I don't screw your recording up.
You'll hear it. You'll hear it on there.
Well,
that's all right.
Maybe we'll do another flight.
Bumpy.
Yep, so I'd go straight out and then put back.
It's right here. We're going to be at...
Oh, yeah, duh, I'm looking at the wrong one.
Southeast Twin Star 907, Delta 3,700, 1 mile northwest AJ landfill, climbing 4,500 southeastbound along the canal. Southeast?
And Southeast Texas Area 5 Victor Whiskey is altitude 5,600, climbing 7,500. We are south of the gap.
Okay, we're at 2,500. Beam the numbers.
Southeast Texas Area
10 degrees flat.
4107 Alpha is 2,500 descending. 2,200 just south of the Apache Junction landfill. We're headed back towards southeast.
Degrees.
Southeast practice area, Cessna 562 Alpha Foxtrot, 4,500, procedure turn outbound over Azud intersection for the GPS runway 23 into Casa Grande.
And we're going to be short.
You're not too awful bad. Well,
it's a lot heavier than anything I've flown before.
Yeah. Okay, go. Yeah, you could have pushed the nose down, got a little speed. Play with your flaps and ground effect, but that'd be pushing it.
All right, we're trimmed. Up 10 degrees.
All right, you want to go back and do a couple landings, or?
Sure.
Okay.
Wind calm, visibility 35, view clouds at 15,000, 18,000 scattered, temperature 36, dew point 10, altimeter 29er83. Visual approach in use, landing and departing runways 22, left and right. Noticed airmen, multiple obstructions in the vicinity of Chandler Airport up to 310 feet AGL. Hazardous weather information available from Flight Watcher Flight Service. All departing aircraft advise ground control, direction of departure on contact. Use caution for bird activity in the vicinity of Chandler Airport. Advise on initial contact that you have Tango. Chandler Tower Formation Tango, 2147 Zulu observation.
All right, up is open.
Up is open, so come up. You'll help us open this, that. Not this, that mixture.
This, that, and the other?
It's hot.
I hear you.
Prop back. Throttle's okay, carbine's on, mags on both, primers locked. And you can just level off because we're going to go into the airport.
Yeah. So bring it back a little bit, right?
You can bring it back to 23. You're going to be bringing it forward once you get into the traffic pattern.
Yeah.
Chandler Tower, Skyline
airplane 2493 Quebec has Tango. We're 10 miles southwest of the field, inbound, touch and go.
And then 2493 Quebec, channel tower, make left traffic, runway 22 left, report downwind.
Right, we'll make left traffic for 22 left, and we'll report downwind 93 Quebec. I forgot if you said touch and goes or full stop.
Oh, I'll do touch and goes. I mean, unless you want to do a full stop. I know it's hot and we're going to fly.
No, we can. Yeah, I would like to.
Do a couple of them.
Yeah.
At least get you on track. That needle's, see now it's calmed down, and it was, you know, before, back there it was bouncing all over the place. So, didn't you say make straight in?
No, we're coming around, we're making left traffic for 22 left.
It's hot, I'm tired.
I know. So I'm just going to come up here and come in, so I'm on the 45. Good. That's all right with you?
That's right. My brain's fried, it's so hot out. I've been out since 6 o'clock in the morning.
All right. Before I get too busy, I'm going to finish off this water. He didn't have us ident that time. We're the only fools out here.
Yeah.
I keep hitting my head on it.
And it's like, and they want to do touch and goes? What are they, crazy?
Yeah. Down here where it's hot. I like this airplane too.
Yeah, why don't you choose a great airplane? Now you notice one thing. Look at your airspeed. See how high it is?
Yeah.
You gotta start getting slowed down. So back your power up a little bit.
About 19?
And see what it does. You gotta get down to 2200 too.
Yeah.
There you go. Now turn your 45.
All right. So that would be it for that day for air work. So we'd head back for some touch and goes. So my first time landing a 182. You're going to notice a bit of a theme here where Freddie and I were getting pretty tired. What I haven't said yet is that we had already flown the first transition flight this day in the club's 172 SP. So I was pulling double duty. Not sure that was the best idea, but it's probably okay, as transitioning to a 172 and a 182 at the same time from a low wing doesn't present too many problems other than making us a little bit extra tired. They're so similar, it's not really a problem to kind of start doing them at the same time. It actually helped to fly them so close together to really note the differences while embracing the similarities. I don't think we did that again during the next couple of weeks, as I flew each plane a couple more times to complete the transitions as well as that high performance endorsement that I needed. I'm not sure if we did double duty on the flights, but we did this day and it turned out okay. We were just a little tired. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this or not already, but even though that 172 was practically brand new and a very nice airplane, I would end up flying the 182s that were much older from the 60s and 70s way more than the 172 during my time in that club. Probably at a 10-to-1 ratio. Like I said, I just fell in love with that 182 type, and I flew it as much as I could. And I liked going places and taking things and people, so the 182 was almost always the better choice for me. So let's get on with the landings.
All right, what's the before landing checklist on this?
Fuel, cow flaps.
Just same stuff.
Okay. Flaps, mixture, prop forward, throttle. Yeah. Not yet. You wait a little while. Do it on downwind.
Okay.
You can bring it forward from 23 to 25.
Okay.
And then bring your power back. Carbeat on. Mags on both, primers locked, airspeed in the white arc. You're going to find you're going to have to bring that power about 15 and trim the nose level so it slows down.
We're at pattern altitude.
Yep, so level off. Let that airspeed bleed off. You're going to have to give it a second. You're still descending. Hold the nose level.
Oh, there we go. Didn't have it quite trimmed right. Now we're slowing down.
Yep.
We're going to need a little power.
Well,
I think I'll be all right.
Yeah, you can add an inch or so. Just want to make sure you're in the white arc. And whenever you're ready, turn downwind. Yeah, now when you get midfield downwind, you can bring that forward.
You want me to report downwind?
Yeah.
Chandler Tower, Skyline 24903, Quebec is on downwind.
Cessna 903, Quebec, runway 22 left, clear touch and go.
Clear touch and go, 22 left, 903, Quebec.
Airspeed's getting a little on the slow side, bring that power back up to 19. And then when you get a beam to numbers, power back, descent attitude, 10 degree flaps. Yeah, just watch the white arc.
Yeah. Getting a little fast.
There you go.
These thermals don't help.
Here you go. Power back.
All the way?
No.
Okay.
Bring the power back till the nose goes down about this far.
Okay.
There you go. There you go. Let it fall to descent attitude. 10 degree flaps. There you go. Hold the nose down. Don't let it come up.
Okay. 45.
Yep. Turn to till you're square with the runway and 20 degree flaps.
Can't see the runway?
Don't roll out until you're square with it.
I can't see it.
I know. You will. It's not anywhere. Or it's not going anywhere. If the runway moves, you got a problem. So turn until you're square with the runway. There it is.
Those don't seem to be going down.
They're going down. There you go. You can feel it. Did it say anything on the 80s about the Vassies being out?
I don't think they're out. I think they're really dim in this sunlight.
Yeah, oh, you're right, they're on.
Yeah, I think they're on, but
okay. Runway's made, 30 degree flaps, or you can go right to 40, bring them all the way down.
Okay. Power all the way out?
Well, you don't want to chop the power of this.
Okay.
Fly it down the runway, so go 100 RPM trim, or an inch manifold pressure trim.
I didn't understand that.
Power back, trim. Power back, trim. Look at the end of the runway, nose level. Nose level. Whoa, hold it off. Keep it straight, keep it straight. Right rudder, hold it up. There you go. Okay. Flaps up.
Got him.
Keep it straight, and go. And bring it on up. Yeah, just go power back, trim, inch of manifold pressure at a time. Just power back, trim, so you don't want to chop the power in this because
it's so heavy.
Right out of the sky.
All right.
Runway 22 right, report 2 mile final.
There you go. Now bring your power back to your top of your green arc. Bring your prop back. Okay. And when you get to 2200, you're going to have to bring your power back.
Okay.
Or your manifold pressure back. Well, power.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go. There you go. Here's your 2200. Bring your power back. Let the nose go level. So it's going to be 17, 18, somewhere in there. And now you do your flow. Fuel's on. Count flaps are open. Mixture flaps are where you want them. Mixture set prop. Bring the prop full forward. Just push it in.
Go.
Okay. Power set. Carbine on. Carbine on.
Cessna 903 Quebec, runway 22 left, cleared touch and go.
Okay.
Clear touch and go, 22 left, 903 Quebec. Okay, power out till we're at descent altitude. Attitude, correct.
Yep. Nose is level, bring the power back, let it go to descent attitude. There you go. Well, not too much. Now you're going to go way below. Yeah. Listen to what it sounds like. 10 degree flaps.
Departure 04, runway 22 right, clear to land.
Runway, everything's forward. Okay, now start backing the power off. Don't let the nose drop. Trim. Power back, trim. Power back, trim. Power back, trim. There you go. Power back, trim. Look at the end of the runway. Hold the nose level. Nose level. Now bring it up to climb attitude. Now just back the power off. There you go. Here, I'll hold it.
Thank you.
All right, carb heat off and go.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's a
beast. Little nose wheel shimmy.
Yeah, just hold it up.
Yeah, we didn't.
Archer 048, taxi to the ramp, monitor ground.
We didn't ever use carb heat in the Cherokees.
Really?
Well, I mean, we run it up with it, but they've got that different engine that keeps the carburetor warm anyway, because it's tucked up underneath. So it's not part of the normal landing procedure.
There you go. Yeah, we'll do one more and then you can think about it.
All right.
Okay, you're off. Well, you're a little close to the runway.
Yeah, I'm kind of angled toward it a little.
Yep.
Cessna 903, Quebec, runway 22 left, clear touch and go.
Clear touch and go, 22 left, 903 Quebec.
All right, go through your flow. Fuel's on.
It's on, cowling.
Flaps up. Mixture.
Throttle,
forward.
throttle.
Prop forward. Prop forward.
Up forward.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Power back. Put your carburetor heat on. Just kind of do them all at the same time here. Exit both primers locked. Airspeed in the white arc and 10 degrees flaps.
Echo's entering the 45 for the downwind, 22 left.
Archer 1 for Echo, change runway 22 right, clear to land.
The end of the runway.
Crossing over to 22 right, clear to land.
There you go. There you go. Now slowly ease it up. Climb attitude. Back to power off. Back to power off. Back to power off. Back to power off. There you go. All right. Okay. Carb heat in and go. Tell him we'll do a full stop. Alright. You've been beaten. You'll get it. Okay, power back. Top of the green arc. Prop back. There you go.
Alright, 500 AG up.
Tower 2493 Quebec, we'd like a full stop this time.
Cessna 903 Quebec, roger. Pan 423, channel tower 3 miles, circle north, right traffic, runway 22 right. Cessna 903 Quebec, runway 22 left, clear to land.
Clear to land, 22 left, 903 Quebec.
Archer 1 for Echo, taxi to the ramp, monitor ground, have a good day.
To the ramp, monitor ground. Thanks for your help, I appreciate it. 1 for Echo.
Did he clear us to land?
I thought he did. Yeah, he did. And Tower 94 Quebec, verify clear to land 22 left, right?
Warrior 044, affirmative. Cessna 903 Quebec, Sagan.
Verify 22 left, clear to land.
Cessna 903 Quebec, affirmative, runway 22 left, clear to land.
22 left, clear to land. Yeah, you called him back.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. I just wanted to make sure.
It's hot.
Yeah.
Okay, flaps full. There you go. Look at the end of the runway, power back trim, hold that nose up. And you gotta get the power back because we're light, it's got enough power, we'll just fly. Watch that nose wheel. Yep. Hold the nose up. There you go. Hold it up, hold it up, hold it up.
Semi Tower, helicopter 20430, number 1 for Bravo departure at helipad.
There you go.
Helipad.
Once the plane's under control, then bring your feet on the brake.
Helicopter 20430, channel tower at the helipad, clear for takeoff.
Cleared for takeoff, 430.
Bonanza 3270 Romeo, channel tower, fly runway heading, runway 22 right, clear for takeoff. Pan 423, start your circle. Cessna 903 Quebec, hold short of runway 22 right, remain this frequency.
Hold short of 22 right and remain this frequency, 903 Quebec.
Cessna 903 Quebec, cross runway 22 right, taxi to the ramp, monitor ground.
Cross 22 right, and we'll monitor ground, 903 Quebec.
Wraps up, transponder, standby, carb heat off. Yeah, I gotta call him on that. That's getting really.
I'm going to taxi on.
Fernando 70 Romeo Traffic, to right about 1 mile in 1 mile circling off the approach is a Cherokee.
And ground 93 Quebec's with you.
This 93 Quebec, Roger.
You can go hard left here.
Okay.
Well, that should do it for today's flight. As usual, I love hearing from you guys, so reach out and let me know what you're doing or hoping to do in aviation. You can reach me at bill@studentpilotcast.com, or, like I said before, the contact form on the website, which is at studentpilotcast.com. So I wasn't done yet, of course, with the high performance endorsement or the checkouts in the 182s. That would take a couple more flights. But I was on my way, and I was doing the 172 checkout at the same time, like I said. I think to get transitioned into all three airplanes and get the endorsement, it was like 5 or 6 total flights, something like that. So I'll definitely bring you the next 182 transition flights in the future. It was super fun to be getting some training and experience in a new to me type, or types in this case. And I was already beginning my love affair with the venerable Cessna 182, which lasts to this day. It's one of my favorite overall GA airplanes for its low cost of operations and its capabilities. Joining this club and getting access to some wonderful airplanes was going to open up this whole new world to me, where I could really start learning how to be a real GA pilot.
The music for today's episode is To Be an Angel by the Canadian band Uncle Seth. You can get more information and subscribe to the podcast feeds on the web at studentpilotcast.com. Remember, any instruction that you hear in this podcast was meant for me and for me alone in the situation I was in at the time. Please do not try to blindly apply anything you see or hear in this podcast to your own flying without thinking it through on your own completely. If you have questions about any aspect of your flying, please consult a qualified CFI.